Hey there, welcome back to the show, Science Fiction with Salim and my buddy Carl Ames. Carl, how's it going?
I'm great tonight. It's raining here in Chicago. I decided, anytime it's raining, I always wear my storm shirts. It's just what I do. So yeah, I love the
Yeah,
shirt.
we got a bit of conflicting shirts on. We got the DC versus Marvel. We're gonna be battling today, I guess.
Let's go.
I don't know. There's always before we get on the show. It's funny always. There's a big DC versus Marvel thing. I don't know why like we can't always get along. I mean, I'm a Marvel guy in general, but like I like DC. I like Flash, Batman. I make fun of Superman sometimes, but
Who doesn't make fun of Superman? I guess I
uh,
think all of the Marvel fans make fun of Superman, but yeah,
yeah, but no, it's always funny like how heated it gets. It's like it's there are a lot of story like characters and stuff are the same. They're
I think
just
that's why,
little.
honestly.
It's just storylines are different, and I think the villains might be the only different in each world. A little bit, most for
Yeah,
the most part.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, we got a really good show today. I think both of us finally saw Venom 2. That'll be a good topic to get into. Just kind of talk about our thoughts on the movie and kind of stuff that like Easter eggs and stuff that I picked out that could connect to future movies for the Spider-Verse in general, like the Sony Spider-Verse Spider-Man, and they're doing like these other like Morbius and um all these other Craven the Hunter movie as well. And
Hmm.
then What If finally had their final episodes. All the episodes were out for Marvel MCU is doing that on Disney Plus, and we'll have a conversation about that as well. So to start off, let's get into Venom 2. So that was Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. I went and saw it by myself. I was just like, it was a Monday. I had gone back from a trip. I was off on a Monday, so I was like, you know what, whatever. Let's just go watch this movie. I was surprised how short it was. I
Yeah,
was like,
it went by real fast.
it was like only an hour and a half. I was double checking because when I went to the theater, um, I was like kept double checking. I'm like, is this right? Is this supposed to only be an hour and a half long? Because normally it's like they're usually like 2 hour, 2.5 hours, like 2 hours, 15 minutes or something like that. Is rarely ever that short. So that was one thing surprising to me. But I don't know how you felt about the movie. I thought this was better than the first one, personally. I thought the script seemed better, the storyline seemed better. It was more like it wasn't like all over the place like the first movie was. Um, Special effects was better. I think Andy Serkis, who did the directed the movie, Andy again is he was played like various characters. Golem from Lord of the Rings. He's in MCU. He's Ulysses Claw from not only from Black Panther, but he was also in Age of Ultron. Um, I think he did a good job directing the movie. I think the entertaining bits from the first movie kind of jumbled out better in this one. Like I said, it was a lot more cleaner, a little more cleaner, I should say. I think like I said, that maybe what made it better too, maybe because it wasn't so long, so they weren't trying. They didn't try to fit stuff in unnecessarily. I guess like they had a clean storyline, and they kind of just went with that what they had. Obviously, we got more Venoms in this version, more Venom in this version, I should say. Like there's
Yeah,
a lot more screen
a lot
time with
more. Yeah,
Venom
yeah.
as opposed to last time. Um, there's a lot of like humorous interactions with him and Eddie. I thought I thought it was just like more superior, and I really like Carnage is my one of my favorite all time villains. I just love how uh everything about like this chaos. Obviously, he's kind of like the Joker in a sense, if you will. Probably a little more. Um, I don't know if you would say exactly like him, but probably a little more like chaotic version of Joker. But yeah, I thought and then like the post credit scene. Sorry, I kind of got my
Mhm.
thoughts kind of went away for a second. But no, I thought and then the cherry on top was the post credit scene. So I thought, like I said, overall, I thought it was a better movie, and I thought like the post credit scene was really just made everything exciting, which we'll talk about later. What were your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, we'll definitely dive deep into a little bit more of the movie shortly, but overall, I feel like well, it was just like Venom, the first Venom, where you go into it and then afterward you're like, huh, that was better than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
Because I don't think anyone other than rabid Venom fans were super hyped for Venom or this movie, even with Carnage in it. Carnage is like a total big selling point because Carnage is awesome. I think everyone, like just everyone loves Venom, everyone loves Carnage. But for what it's worth, um, it's still a movie without Spider-Man. It's still a Venom movie
Right.
without Spider-Man. So it's not
Right.
like, but at least for me, and again, a lot of Spider-Man fans, you can only go so far with Venom without Spider-Man. And then
Right.
like he needs to, since he wasn't introduced with Spider-Man in it, he still needs to have that hurdle where he can get to the Spider-Man part that we're all waiting for. And then once that happens, once he hurdles over that, then he's kind of open and free, can do whatever he want. So we're kind of just like playing this game of waiting, this waiting game of, okay, we know what you're trying to do, Sony. We know what you want to do. Can you hurry up and get to that part? Sort of feeling watching these movies. And that's why I don't really care. Like, I don't care for the first one nearly as much as this one, but this second one wasn't so great that I'm worth praising it. And generally, if it's a movie that I feel like I don't want to purchase, like digitally purchase for digital at home or buy the Blu-ray or something like that, I'll probably never watch it again. But it's not so bad that I am like, this is a terrible movie, or like I said, it's better than I thought. It's absolutely better than I thought it would be, but it is very much rushed. They're trying to get to this point where Venom and Spider-Man can finally be in the same movie and interact and set that up. But it this to me, this movie, the Let There Be Carnage, is too watered down because of the first movie that has the same type of villain with the symbiotes. The
Right.
symbiotes were the villain in the first movie. We have one symbiote in this movie, and presumably, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, once they do this Venom Spider-Man movie, which will not be Venom 3, it won't be Spider-Man 4, it'll be a Venom Spider-Man movie. Once that's over with, the Venom 3 movie, what villain are we going to have? Another symbiote? Probably, based off of this
Right.
ending of this
Yeah.
movie.
The
So it's
Easter
kind
egg.
of, yeah, it's kind of like wearing itself out. And that's why I think like the impact of Carnage is watered down because of, we're just staying on this symbiote boat, this symbiote villain. Like, we need something else a little bit fresher than just Venom fighting symbiotes all the time.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I think the problem with doing Venom before Spider-Man, because obviously, so the first issue with doing Venom uh without Spider-Man is, how did he become like his powers like that? Because there's a reason those powers exist, like the way his face looks, the fact that he can wall crawl and all these different things is because he was with Peter Parker first. The
Right.
symbiote was with Peter Parker, and from that he got all the same traits and stuff from Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. Um, Obviously, they kind of skipped well ahead. So Venom obviously is a villain to start out, and he's one of Spider-Man's most uh, dangerous, probably the toughest villain he's ever faced is Venom. Um, and then obviously there's a background because not only Venom but Eddie Brock, who has a relationship with Peter Parker. Obviously, in the comic verse, there's various different storylines between him and Eddie Brock and Peter Parker. There's some I think show like them being friends. Others are just showing being rivals. The original story is them being rivals at the
Mhm.
Daily Bugle. There's a hatred that builds between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and then eventually Eddie Brock also starts hating Spider-Man before he even uh and that's obviously I should say that's how the symbiote is kind of attracted to Eddie Brock. So this kind of skips ahead to much further into the future where he kind of becomes a what do you call it, an anti-hero
Mhm.
when he goes to San Francisco, because he's Eddie Brock and Peter Parker and Spider-Man and Venom come to a term that, you know what, we have an understanding. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, stay out of my way. I'll stay out of yours. I understand you also are in your own way want to protect people, and I also want to protect the defenseless. So I understand that I'm gonna leave New York City in a sense, and that's why he goes to San Francisco to kind of do his own thing. But like yeah, like you said, it kind of glosses over that big chunk of the story that's important to get to this spot to make him a likable, like I mean likable in a sense, like yeah, you rooting for him to win and succeed, because when Venom is first introduced, you're not rooting for Venom to win and succeed, because if Venom wins and succeeds, that means Spider-Man loses. But eventually you get to that point, and that's why he becomes an anti-hero, because he's not really a good guy, because he's still killing people. Like he kills bad people, but he's still killing.
Mhm.
um so that's why he kind of becomes like that anti-hero in a sense. So yeah, I agree with you in that regards. It's kind of hard to sell a Venom movie or any Carnage movie or anything like that when Spider-Man is not involved. I get that aspect, but like to me, I guess I understand that point, and I kind of just ignore it, because it's like, what else can you do? Because you can't really. For me, someone who's read the comics, who knows the story, I can't fixate on that. I can't, like, I know that they're going a different direction, so I kind of just viewed the movie in the lens through just this movie, not any background storylines and how did we get here. And I know what happens, years before while he's Venom already, and then he eventually gets here as well. So I guess that's what I kind of looked at, and that's why I thought, like I said, I just thought this was a little cleaner than the first one. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't give it like 5 stars or anything like that. I think the first movie I probably give like 2 stars. I give this like 3 stars. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I mean. I thought it was better and was a little more enjoyable, and I think it helped that it was short.
Well, we've been kind of dancing around it, so let's go ahead. We want to start talking about some spoiler stuff and some Easter eggs because a lot of things are different in the comics versus what was in the movie. And then when I have problems with the movie, it's not necessarily because of the differences. It's just like I said, it's a really quick movie. They really pump this out really fast. And one of the things that I do quickly want to mention, it was about Shriek, the character Shriek, and that skipping ahead a little bit. She one is Carnage's girlfriend in the movie. So
Right.
one of the things that they did, they had the St. Estes Home for Unwanted Children, and it was a little different. It was just called the St. Estes Home for Boys. So that way, we're introducing this character at that home. So it's not just boys there; it's just boys and girls. So
Right.
they meet there and they become friends. They bond. They whatever. Um, but this Frances Barrison, she is a mutant in the comic books. They did use that word, right? They used the word mutant in the movie, right?
Mutation. Yeah, mutation.
Mutation. So this is, I wouldn't say it's not technically, I guess, a MCU movie, but it's still associated with the MCU. Would be the best way to put it. So she has this mutant power, these sonic screams. whether or not she's going to be officially canonized as a mutant with the X gene and what all that stuff in the MCU, that remains to be seen. But she is a mutant in the comic book, so this is kind of interesting in the very least. I wouldn't say it's important, but like worth noting that she is a mutant. But she has these sonic screams. She's very deadly. I found it really interesting, and it was actually one of the more frustrating things about the character is that she has these powers. Um, and they did mention it, and it was like a certain plot point to her, and a certain extent that Carnage and Venom, they are weak to sonic screams and fire. So like there was a scene in the movie where uh they are in the car and the police are surrounding them, and Carnage lifts the car up with his powers and stuff, and she's trying to blast with her own powers for the first time around Carnage, had no idea it was coming, and then all of his tendrils and stuff got weakened, and he's in pain and stuff. He almost kills her right there, then and there. And I thought that was like, that's a really interesting dynamic now, because she can't use her powers around him for him to be effective. And then there's very little opportunity. I mean, she's pretty loud. She can't just be like 5 feet away and use it, or turn the other way. Like, she
Hmm.
can't use her powers at all. So if Carnage gets overwhelmed, or like you can take her out, something like that, like there's just a whole lot of different things you can do with that. And I just felt her character was ultimately underutilized, but that's part of being a victim of a very short movie. They went through this stuff really fast, and like that's why I wish characters like a Carnage, who is beloved by many, could be fleshed out more and not be a one and done. And that's with Shriek as well. Just like, she may not be as well beloved or well known, but in the very least, we have a mutants, one, and two. This interesting dynamic is now, just for this movie.
Right, right, and I, I don't, like I said, I don't disagree. I get like the rushing of the characters is because they're so important. Obviously, with Cletus Cassidy, again, when we talk about how much they had to change with the character because of um as far as like his origin story and everything like that is concerned, and how he comes in contact with the symbiote, is there's a lot as far as that is concerned. So obviously, in the comics, so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, where how his origin story is similar and different from the comics is uh you see in the comics there's an institute called Ravencroft Institute, and they show Ravencroft in this uh movie as well. But the place where Carnage first meets Shriek, that's where he meets her at Ravencroft. And although, and like I said, like we talked about it in Venom 2, they have their own spin as far as the story, making it place where he rescues her from. Like he rescues, sorry, I should say, Carnage rescues Shriek from Ravencroft, and that's how they kind of, you know, become one, and they kind of meet each other. I think in the comic they show the symbiote having a connection to Shriek as well, as opposed to just Cletus, uh, because in the movie it's just Cletus Cassidy who does, and the symbiote does not care about
Right.
her in
Yeah.
any way whatsoever.
Hmm.
Um, so and obviously, um, that dynamic is why like Shriek is almost kind of like a throwaway character. That's what she kind of becomes. It's she defines Cletus Cassidy, but then eventually, once her and Cletus are reunited again, it kind of becomes a point where Cletus and the symbiote are not that connected as they should be, because in the that's a big part of how Carnage and Cletus, they're just so connected to each other in every way. Like there's not really a like a point where they're like very much there's no difference in them. So that kind of that I guess you can criticize a little bit, and think that, okay, well, that makes Carnage weaker than he should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even then, like one of the again, one of the reasons why I don't feel Carnage's impact was so strong in this movie was because we've already seen not just a symbiote in the last movie, but a very Carnage-like symbiote with Riot was the name of the big
Right.
villain, but had the same sights, arms, and shootings, all the basic abilities that Carnage has. Riot did. We already seen that stuff in the last movie. It was just a different color symbiote. So we're kind of seeing it again, but just it's Carnage this time. And now, yeah, it looks like Carnage. It's red. It's got the black eyes with the white on there, big teeth, and is really, killing people and all of that stuff, but we kind of already got a watered down version of it. So seeing it again, it takes away from how vicious Carnage is. If we had some other kind of villain that was maybe more, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge Venom fan to know what type of villains he would have um, in outside of symbiotes, but there could have been something else or someone else that wasn't symbiote related, so that we can see our first symbiote versus symbiote action being in this movie. Then it would have been a lot better.
Right, right. Definitely. I agree with you as far as those topics are I get criticisms are concerned. I think let's move on a little bit here and let's talk about, because I think there was a lot of points and things that happen in this movie that I think can connect into MCU and other movies going forward. And I thought is really worth kind of talking about. So, one of them again being the Daily Bugle. Now, that is originally where in the comics, that's obviously when Peter Parker and Eddie Brock first meet, and the movie references that in the first movie, it references that Eddie worked at the Daily Globe in the past. But in Venom 2, they finally showed that he's now working for the Daily Bugle. And the logo they use is interesting because that's the same one they used in the Sam Raimi SpiderMan uh, movie. So that kind of interestingly connects, obviously, because we know MCU is doing a with Far From No Way Home. They're probably bringing back Toby Maguire, which we're pretty confident they're bringing back Toby Maguire, and obviously we know Octopus, Alfred Molina is in there. So that kind of connection is there, set up there. Um, so that in that regards, that's there. Uh,
I do wonder about that though, because yes, like the logo is like, again, like you said, Sam Raimi trilogy of movies at Spider-Man, but at the same time, it's they like the like I said, Andy Serkis, and I believe Tom, what's his name? I think not remember his
Holland.
name. No, no, is playing Venom.
Oh, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. There you go. See, they have so many names, so many Chris's and Toms. Tom Hardy. I'm pretty sure they both have confirmed that Eddie Brock and Venom, prior to this movie, never heard of or seen Spider-Man before. So, like, it's not that he's existing in that universe whatsoever. So that kind of puts the kibosh on it being in the Sam Raimi universe, because unless it takes place before Spider-Man does, which I don't believe, the original Spider-Man from Sam Raimi and all those, if it takes place before then perhaps, but I don't think so. Again, those happened in like 2001, and so on, and we're in 2021 now. It's hard to, unless they specifically say this movie took place in 2000 or something like that. I don't think it's in the same universe, but it is using the same logo. And then the upcoming Morbius movie has that logo as well, but that does have a picture of Spider-Man in it, and that's in the Morbius trailer. So what's really happening? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't think that's as relevant that it's like such a lot. Like that movie was in the early 2000s, and this movie is 2021. I think it's more so connecting it because um you see that I think they're just dropping the Easter eggs because they're slowly getting to that, because I think it's important as far as what happens later, obviously in the post credit scene is concerned. You get into um, let's talk about let's skip it to that. I think because I think that's the most relevant part of it.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot of when in the post credit scene, Venom is sitting there. Venom and Eddie Brock are sitting laying in a bed, and he talks about how there's so much Eddie doesn't know, and that
Hmm.
there's like a symbiote hive mind of knowledge that over the years and years, uh, of on all the different universes and everything, that the symbiotes pick up from each other, and they know all this knowledge and things like that. And then you see there seems to be like a flash, possibly from the one that when Doctor Strange is doing his spell in uh, No Way Home, and that scene where he's trying to help Peter forget who Peter Parker is, and then you see the yellow flash come through. So it might be that same flash that we see in this post-credit scene. Uh, that kind of suggests that Eddie and Venom have been transported to the MCU timeline
Hmm.
as a result of that multiverse. Um, so and I'm also wondering, because of that, will Venom somehow make an appearance in No Way Home? I wonder if that somehow they're gonna add him into it now, or if that was always the plan. What are your thoughts on that end of the scene that they went through?
Um, yeah, I guess we've all been kind of curious and who was going to be the one that was going to make the transition. If it was going to be Spider-Man jumping out of the MCU to go to the Venomverse, or if it was going to be Venom jumping out of the Venomverse and going to the MCU. So right now we kind of have that confirmation that it's Venom going to make that jump. So um, whether or not that's going to happen with other um, Spider-Man villains, like again, like Morbius. Is Morbius gonna make this jump, or is Spider-Man gonna make the jump to Morbius? Are they ever gonna meet? Are they gonna fight? And all the rest of the movies that Sony plans on making, like again, the rumored Sinister Six movie, like are we gonna do the same thing and jump them all over to the MCU just for the Sinister Six, or is Spider-Man just gonna have his Spider-Man movies and no one else shows up, and they're not gonna make any other references to the Avengers, etc.? Because you would think if they're gonna do Sinister Six, they would need to at least mention why no one else is helping Spider-Man fight six villains at the same time, um, sort of thing. You can't, because he's in another universe or something like that. Would make sense at that point, but uh getting back to it, yeah, it definitely looks like Doctor Strange possibly is the reason why Venom made that jump. um but it's hard to say because there isn't a whole lot to go off of other than the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson, a little video feed there, and that's about it, but we know something happened.
And well, the other thing too is Venom recognizes Peter Parker. He's like, that guy. Like, he
Well, once that
touches the
he
screen.
once that he recognized him is
No,
more of
he knows him. Like, he knows him. Like, something about him that he doesn't like, or some familiarity with him, and he's like, that guy.
I don't know. I didn't take it that way. I took it more of because of Jameson reading that news bulletin, saying because I mean, when he said it was like killed Mysterio, all of this stuff. Venom wants justice, lethal protector. He wants to,
Mm.
and he's like, "Hey, let's get that guy. Let's go after him. He seems like a bad person." That's why I think like he is like it's just more of Venom is excited to, who is that one? I want to get that one, as opposed to knowing exactly what's going on. I don't know. I mean, it could be either way, but certainly, and my impression was he's just more like interested. Like after listening to that broadcast and then seeing that picture, I'm like, okay, that's our next target.
It seems no, but because it seems like they're kind of disoriented when the flash happens. So
Sure, yeah.
they're not paying attention to what, like, the words of what's going on. They just see the picture, and then that's what attracts him to the picture. And he's like, um, Venom is kind of like that guy. It's kind of I know something about him, or I'm not sure. I don't know. I
Yeah,
thought that
it's hard to say.
was
Yeah.
interesting. Other thing I wanted to kind of connect in here. I know we mentioned not to go backwards in our conversation, but you didn't mention the possibility of another symbiote coming eventually,
Hmm.
and we don't know when that will be. Maybe that'll be
Probably
uh,
next year, knowing
may,
Sony.
maybe next year. I think it'll be interesting
It'll be a
because
little
I
bit.
know
Yeah.
the times that Peter Parker, and so in the comic, the times that Spider-Man and Carnage normally team up is because when Carnage is involved, and
Hmm.
they team up together to fight Carnage. Um, and in the movie, they show obviously another snippet of like the symbiote going into one of the characters in this movie, the detective that they have in here. Again, we saw a picture of him earlier with holding the newspaper. He's a major part of the movie, but
Hmm.
the symbiote goes into him, and obviously when you see them call each other like once, you know, since Carnage came from Venom, Carnage calls him father, and father son, and
Hmm.
then the next one that comes from Carnage is called Toxin. So Toxin is Carnage's son, if you will. So they seem to be hinting towards obviously Toxin's going to come eventually. Um, I don't know when, like I said, and maybe that's what will connect. Will Spidey and Venom team up to fight Toxin eventually? That's what I'm wondering as well.
Yeah, definitely something that they can do. I honestly like like I said, Spider-Man and Venom normally would team up to fight. Like it's Maximum Carnage is the name of that storyline. Spider-Man and Venom team up to take down Carnage and all of the other symbiotes that are in that story. But if we got that as the Spider-Man Venom movie, I would be a little disappointed because I think most people would rather see Spider-Man versus Venom as opposed to them like having a 5-minute fight and then oh no, there's a bigger threat. Like we need to like Spider-Man first needs to have an understanding of what a symbiote is and how big of a threat they are versus Venom, his main symbiote threat, and then at a later time Toxin. So I would rather see Toxin be a Venom 3 Venom 3 villain as opposed to the villain of the team up movie.
Yeah, that's fair too. And I don't know if I meant like more so that would be the next movie that they would do where Peter, Spider-Man and Venom are involved. It's meant
Yeah.
like down the line. Like the
Yeah.
next movie could be Venom versus Spider-Man, and then they bring in Toxin after the fact. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, again, that's to wrap up this portion of the show. Again, Venom to me, I thought the Venom 2 I thought it was better than the first one. I thought it was a little cleaner, and despite ignoring, like I said, for me, ignoring the fact that you can't have Spider-Man in here, I thought they did better storyline. Like I said, I like. And another thing I'll say I like about the movies is I like the little relationship they showed with Eddie and Venom. Like I like that they
Yeah.
kind of have that banter and that little you know the little idiosyncrasies that they have within each other.
Yeah, that was enjoyable. It was fun. I don't know why I was trying to figure out a way to make a joke about it, but while I was watching all of that silly Venom stuff, I was like, this movie is a movie for intellectuals. And I don't know where my head was going with that, but I just felt like I needed to mention it. I don't know. It was just it was a fun enough movie, but it was like I said, just shorter and the experiences that should matter a little bit more when you have such fanfare for a character like Carnage. Because again, spoiler alert, he doesn't make it out of this movie, so neither does Shriek. So they are, for what it's worth, done. Unless they try to whip up some magic somehow and bring them back in the future, we most likely are not going to see them again.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
true.
so yeah, so let's go ahead and we're going to spend the last part of the show talking about What If, which just finished airing. All, was it 9 episodes, 8 episodes, 9?
Yeah, something like that.
The last one was last week, and overall, just in case maybe you haven't watched it, because I know it's not necessarily high on everyone's watch list because it's animated. So the first question is, what is the show and why is everyone making such a big deal about it? So what is What If? What If is first based off of comic books, a series of comic books. It's been going on for decades, on and off, just called What If. And then this, like here on this particular issue, what if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four? And you see Spider-Man has a 5. Everyone has a 5, but it's not the Fantastic Four, it's the Fantastic Five. That doesn't make sense because it's not canon. These are stories that are just meant to be for fun, where some writers would just explore small changes or big changes in characters and just have fun with it, or just do something to show this is what could happen if one little thing was changed, if this person got these powers, if Spider-Man joined the Fantastic Four and they became the Fantastic Five, if Galactus successfully destroyed Earth and ate Earth, or etc. etc. Like, just because Marvel Universe, the comic books, they have their own storylines and this one beaten path, and then just another path. So just like if you remember watching in the Loki series, they have the sacred timeline, and that's a big thick vein of a timeline, and then they have the small little branches. Those are the nexus points, and this is important for them to have done that first, because it shows these are branching off timelines, and this is the main timeline. So this What If series, are pretty much every episode is happening on each of these branching timelines, where eventually they're going to get caught off, I guess, by the TVA, or they just continue on and they just don't mess with the sacred timeline. But they're not a part of the sacred timeline, but they are happening within the MCU, if that makes sense. So there's a small chance that we can see some of these characters in live action as part of the sacred timeline in the future, because they have discussed that. So we could see a live action version of some of these characters, but for the most part, they're just for fun. And then we're exploring these possibilities for more fun. We also see like Watu the Watcher. All of these stories aren't necessarily happy endings too, especially in the comics. The What If comics aren't always happy endings. Sometimes they're really dark, and we have dark episodes just like that as well, like the Doctor Strange episode, the one episode with Yellow Jacket and all the Avengers were killed, stuff like that. They're not always upbeat and positive like the Marvel Universe, where something bad happens but the good guys always win. Sometimes the bad guys win, sometimes something bad happens, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think so. My thoughts on What If is basically MCU again, just hinting, or not hinting, but getting more into the multiverse, because
Mhm.
that's what obviously Phase 4 and 5 is heavily going to be. That's how they're going to get not only X-Men, Fantastic Four, all these different things that they got from Fox, and not only from I should say, yeah, Fox, or 20. Was it also Universal Studios? I can't remember.
No,
Uh,
no,
no,
just
okay, so
20th Century Fox. Yep.
just 20th Century Fox. So try to incorporate those characters into MCU, and I think that's where a lot of the multiverse stuff comes from. Um, I know we have our like favorite episodes for the show that we were gone through. For me, I'll start out. My favorite episode were the one with Doctor Strange using the Eye of Agamotto to change the past, and I think I do wonder if this like it kind of makes me wonder like as far as the things that he's going to be Doctor Strange potentially could be doing in future Marvel movies. Um, Especially in like I said again, Spider-Man No Way Home when he does the spell to make everyone forget Spider-Man is Peter Parker. And I actually thought about that. Like, what if? Because it's odd that so in the comic, there's no way like Doctor Strange would do a spell like that. Like he wouldn't mess with um reality like that. He would never say, "Yeah, I agree. Let's change. Let's do a spell to help everyone forget Peter Parker as Spider-Man."
Mhm.
Like he wouldn't mess with that. And like you see Wong saying, "Don't mess with that spell," as he's about to leave, right? Like he wouldn't Wong wouldn't have to say that to Doctor Strange. So I kind of wonder if that's not really Doctor Strange. Like, what if that's like the evil Doctor Strange, like somehow taking over in this reality?
The one
Um,
from the What If? You're
yeah,
talking about that one? I don't know
that
that one. That would be
that
fun, but I don't think
no,
so.
that'd be fun. That or I wonder if it's because a character that we haven't heard from in a while, Baron Mordo. Um,
Okay.
he has I because when we last see Baron Mordo, he's gone back to that one guy that cured his spine and
Mhm.
takes his magic back. I wonder, and in the comics, Baron Mordo, he's known for trying to get Dormammu into our reality. Kind of, that's one of his like goals in the comics, amongst other things that he wants to do. But one of them is Dormammu, getting him back into this reality. And if Baron Mordo is able to somehow screw up all the multiverses, maybe he can release Dormammu from that, time thing that Doctor Strange has put him into.
Mhm.
I kind of wonder that too because okay, so again in the comics, the person that actually does that spell to make everyone forget Peter Parker Spider Man is this character called Mephisto. That would seem kind of random to throw in someone that's never been mentioned into the storyline. I guess that has no connection to anything yet, right? So I'm just wrong.
Yes and
I'm
no.
just I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking, like, I just like. I guess my whole point of that part is, I just find it hard to believe that Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange, would do that spell on his own. It's not actually him, and I'm wondering if this somehow, what if is setting that up to hint at something like that.
That definitely, I mean, that's an interesting theory, and I like the idea for sure. Because Baron Mordo is for sure going to be in this Doctor Strange movie, so we will see him. But we haven't seen like anything of him in the trailers or anything like that. So maybe he could be impersonating Doctor Strange, and maybe he has him held in captivity. Maybe he is the big bad of the movie because we don't even know who the big bad of Doctor Strange movie is. So it could very well be Doctor Strange got locked up in chains or whatever, and Baron Mordo's impersonating him, and he's using that as a way to get Dormammu out. That sounds great. I like it. Sign me up for it. But we'll see. It's just speculation for now. Getting back to what if though, as far as my personal favorite episode of all of them was actually the Marvel Zombies episode because one, the zombies, it just kind of comes out of left field for anyone that doesn't know anything about Marvel zombies. They have zombies, so they have official zombies. They do come from all over the place, some different universes. Sometimes they've had run-ins with the main Marvel universe, but for the most part, they are like just classic zombies, but all your favorite superheroes. So they have superpowers too. Iron Man is a zombie within Iron Man's suit, and there's a zombie Hulk, a zombie Deadpool, a zombie Silver Surfer. They even took on Galactus and turned him into a zombie. So there was a zombie Galactus just going around zombifying on whole universes because he's Galactus. But to the episodes, they're zombies. They're still zombies, and this is still the MCU where everything's PG-13, and we will most likely never see that in a live action because I mean, guess what they do? They're zombies. What do you do? How do you kill a zombie? You shoot them in the head. Heads explode, brains and stuff, chunks and blood everywhere. And they didn't pull any of that. I mean, it wasn't as gruesome as a rated R movie or show would be, but they still shot people zombies in the head and they were still eating brains and stuff like that. And I thought that was just really fun to see that. And then you get to see your favorite characters all zombified. um just seeing a whole episode of that was just really cool, and just appreciating them going for that. I wouldn't say a deep cut, but it was just really awesome just seeing having all of that around. Like, great, we got zombies now. They are canonized. We're gonna possibly see them again, and we do see them again at the end of the series too. But we'll come back to that. I also, in general, as far as the characters go, I really loved probably Captain Carter the most. Very first episode, and she is real quick. She's based on a lot of different things. That's one reason why I really like her. Captain Peggy Carter as Captain Britain. Uh, this is not the first time this character has been around, but it's kind of more of an official way because there was, I believe, Marvel Puzzle Quest might be the actual first place. That's a phone game, a mobile game, where she first popped up, and she's just like an alternate skin just to have fun. But I think people really took to it, and then this kind of like Gwenpool, where there's a lot of fan art, and fan art really just drove, and the fan talk drove the love for the character, and they decided to try it again over and over. And so she actually did make a debut in the comic books called Exiles. We don't want to get too much into that, but you can actually uh make a parallel between the Exiles comic book and this Guardians of the Multiverse team that's in this What If series, because they kind of do the same thing. The Exiles go from universe and reality to reality, solving problems, just like they did here, trying to save the multiverse with the Guardians of the Multiverse. So there's kind of things there, and then we've got Captain Carter, not Captain Britain, but Captain Carter in this What If. So I thought she was really cool, and we are definitely going to see her again too. So we have the ending of the series where she finds the Hydra Stomper with Black Widow and Steve's in the inside. So it is believed that we're going to see more of that next season, which is confirmed that we are going to have a season 2 of What If.
Yeah, I thought the overall show was really good. Like, it was enjoyable. It was interesting seeing the different, like storylines, what ifs. It could be obviously when you see like T'Challa accident, like, being abducted by accident instead of Peter Quill, and
Mhm.
he becomes Star Lord, going, and obviously his storyline's a little different. He doesn't actually like um run away from anyone or anything like that. He just kind of, in that, doing his thing. That was interesting. Other one I really like that they brought in the Watcher. Uh, Obviously, he's the narrator, and doing the whole show as far as talking about the different universes, the multiverses. And then in the end, they have like the final two episodes where they do like where he kind of breaks the oath of I'm not going to get involved, but then he gets involved because obviously Ultron has gotten too powerful and he's going to destroy all the universes. And in order to stop him, obviously he gets all these different characters to come together. Like he gets obviously Captain Carter, he gets T'Challa, he gets I think Black Widow, I believe.
Kind
And,
of, kind of didn't
sort of.
recruit her.
No,
Yeah,
he didn't recruit her. So Gamora, he gets Gamora. He also gets so Eric Killmonger isn't back in here.
Mhm.
So he gets him to there's a different timeline, like where Eric Killmonger saves Tony Stark, and then obviously from all that, so he gets him in that into that as well. And then what that made me kind of think of is I wonder, because I know there was a rumor that eventually down the line, I don't know if it's gonna be end of Phase 4 or but the next Avengers movie is supposed to be like a Secret Wars. So I wonder if that's kind of setting it up like there's going to be a point where all the superheroes like but in the Secret Wars obviously is a character called the Beyonder that does this. But in the same, obviously MCU does their own thing where who does what. But I would wonder in the future if something similar like this would happen again, where you kind of get superheroes and then they pick a bunch of villains too, and then they fight each other somehow for an ultimate goal of something or another.
And before we, because we got to wrap up a little bit, I do want to make sure we mention one thing about. We're going to talk about the finale as well as just like I said, we're talking about Secret Wars and stuff. But one of the things that popped up was we got all these episodes. We got the T'Challa Star Lord episode. We got the Marvel Zombies, Doctor Strange. We did Avengers get killed by uh, Hank Pym, and so on. All these characters that ended up on the final team, but we got Gamora on that final team too. But we never saw an episode that had Gamora in it, which was kind of blindsided pretty much everyone. We just like want to just get Gamora, like, oh, what? So
Yeah,
what happened is there was a plan to have an episode with Gamora and this Iron Man that you see here, with this Hulkbuster armor that's inspired by some of the Sicarian, I should say, designs. That was supposed to be a full-on episode, but it looks like it could have been like some restrictions, like with COVID, they just didn't have time to do the final effects for it to get it fully voiced or whatever it is, but they just had reason to not be able to have it a finished full episode and be a part of this season 1 of What If. So they had to cut it all together. However, they still finished the finale and still had Gamora in the finale. So what is most likely going to happen is that they're going to include this Gamora Iron Man episode in season 2. They're going to try to. It's just whether or not how they're going to explain why it's a part of season 2 and not part of season 1, if it's going to be more relevant to season 2, or if they're going to change the plot whatsoever for that episode, which I can say, confirmed from the directors and the writers from What If, that episode was supposed to be um, kind of inspired by Thor Ragnarok, where basically Iron Man is the Hulk part of the Thor Ragnarok and Gamora is the Thor part of Thor Ragnarok, and they're on Scar. So it's not the entire movie, but they are on Scar. They do fight each other, and that's where Iron Man has the big Hulkbuster armor, and they're supposed to eventually get to the part of Thor Ragnarok where they fight, well, not fight, but meet up with Thanos. So that's where they do fight Thanos. Um, and then Gamora defeats Thanos and takes his armor. So that's why she's wearing Thanos's armor. And then also the contraption that she has, it's supposed to atomize the Infinity Stones, was supposedly invented and created by Tony Stark. So that's why she has it, but it only works in her universe. Some continuity issues with that. Um, Real quick, like that's not supposed to happen. A lot of things that actually were supposed to happen, um, especially with the Infinity Stones, because they're not supposed to work in some other realities, but they did in this show. So they're kind of like, it's worth suspending your beliefs a little bit, just because you just be a little bit more loose with them with this show. But technically, the Infinity Stones are not supposed to work. So the Vision, Ultron, he can get the stones in his reality, but once he hops to a different reality, those are supposed to be just some colorful rocks. So he
right.
shouldn't have the ability to beat Thanos, and neither should Thanos have the ability to do what he did. Although, I mean, if for what it's worth, he could beat Thanos because both of them would have Infinity Stones that wouldn't work. So he could still did what he did because that was just an energy beam, you know. And Thanos isn't invulnerable. I mean, tough, but you can still kill him.
Right. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do in season 2 and how they, what else they added. Because, like I said, I don't think these are just random episodes that for fun that they're doing. MCU always has a reason for everything that they do. They have a rhyme or reason behind it, and it all ties together into a lot of times especially between movies, and they have these little, like I said, what if they're doing, and all the different shows with Loki and WandaVision and everything like that. They do them for a reason because they set up something larger down the line. So that'll be interesting to see where they go with that and why they did what if. And in the future when we watch a movie, it's like, hey, I remember that, so that's why they did this.
Exactly.
So we'll have a clearer picture, and MCU is always great with setting that kind of stuff up. But yeah, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you again for tuning in to Science Flixtion. My name is Salim Sutterwala, and as always, I'm with my friend and co-host Carl Eames. You can follow us again, him at Ninja Turtles, and follow me at Science Flixtion. Until next time, science fiction fans.
All right, see you guys.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
No,
It's all right.
Second, Carl. Good show, guys.
All right,
Thank you.
I
hope we didn't kill anything for you, or did you kind of step away for a second?
For me? No. Well,
Yeah, because
why? What happened?
well, spoiler wise and stuff like that. I don't know if you were ever watching these. Watching these. We're gonna ruin shows for you.
No. I'm the type of guy that I can appreciate a movie even if I somehow have learned, what's going to happen in it. It's still, having studied movie making for so many years is still for me, everything from the placement of the camera to the use of colors, the wardrobe, and so forth. There's an appreciation of everything, not just the storyline. So you have not ruined a single thing, and it was a great show. You guys were excellent.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got a little off the outline. I got disorganized. I accidentally skipped a couple of things because I was trying to tie in some stuff and not take too long, because I know we had to cut it out. Because you said you had somewhere to go, so I didn't want to talk too long.
Well, I think the flow was excellent. There wasn't.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
What'd you think, Carl?
Yeah, no, we definitely skipped a couple things, but they weren't so crucial. Like I said,
Right.
I think it's as long as it sounds like we're having more of a conversation and exchanging in dialogue than just trying to lecture people on stuff that we know.
Right.
We're fine. Because like I said, we can use the outline and have the pictures and stuff to keep us on track, and then we were already talking about some of the stuff when we were doing our review. So it could have just came in. We could have been talking about some of the spoiler stuff sooner and just weaved it into the conversation more. But we were just chatting back and forth. And that's what really, we have our discourse. You believe this, I believe that. And
exactly.
Some people are going to be on my side. Some people are going to be on yours.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna push it, man, because I have theories, crazy theories. I think there's something up with that. I'm definitely confident that that's not Doctor Strange that does the spell.